What's up, my beautiful people, especially my beautiful black people? What's good? Welcome back to the Uncovered podcast, the podcast you're obsessed with. I'm your girl, Katie, the one and only. Happy Black History Month. And since you're listening to this after Valentine's Day, happy belated Valentine's Day. I got a question for you. When is the last time you heard some good, positive news about the state of Black America? Now, if you're like me, you probably think about it often, but you also probably you kind of get lost in your day-to-day lives with just trying to survive, trying to make it, trying to get things done, right? And it is easy to kind of forget about the different things that are going on, because if you're also like me, I don't really watch the news that often. I have to be honest. I do not like watching the news because of how depressing it is. I don't want to fill my day with that type of stuff. I definitely don't want to start my day with this depressing information, because it's always some type of dramatic situation that has happened, some type of killing, some type of death. And although it is very important to know that these things are going on, it messes up your day. It messes up your mood. And in order to be in control of your mood and in control of your day, like I try to be, you have to fill your day with positive affirmations and things that are encouraging, that's going to propel you forward within your day so that you can feel like you're winning your day. So I be tuning the news out, honestly. But also, it's something that we cannot forget to think about, because I really do believe that we as African Americans have made tremendous strides within the caliber of who we are. When you think about celebrities, you think about actors, people in politics, people who are in the media, athletes, all of these significant people who have made their own way and have paved the way, you can identify with how honorable it is for them to be of wealth and to be of a certain influence and to have a following. But then it also makes me wonder, how are you utilizing that following besides gaining more income? Because of course that's very important. I mean, we definitely want to be able to capitalize and create income sources from the people who are willing to contribute to those things. But I also wonder, like, how are you giving back to the community who has made you and propelled you into who you are? And I don't want to say made you, because I can't give the community credit, but without a following, let's be honest, who are you? And when I think about that sort of breakdown, it's like, okay, how are you as someone with significant influence giving back to people who look up to you, people who consider you as a role model, people who really value your input or just your existence? And a lot of times what I see is that so many people, so many of us, I can't really speak for the other communities, but I know within our community, I see a lot of people feeling real reluctant to give out the blueprint. Some people are very more than welcome to give out the blueprint, because, whatever you doing is gonna work for you because of who you are and the value that you bring to the marketplace, and because of your personality, and because of how you think and how you word things. It's going to be different from this person over here. They could try to replicate and duplicate exactly what you're doing, but it's not going to come off genuine if that's not who they are. And so I see a lot of times that we have the fear of somebody outshining us, or the fear of, falling below a certain average line. And so therefore you keep all that information to yourself instead of handing it out to people who actually want to follow in your footsteps. We shouldn't be like that. And I know there are so many people who are not like that, because they're willing to give out this information. And as I know, with people who make money and who have learned to turn things that could seem as though it's a price into an investment, right? Then people who want to learn these things will invest and spend whatever they got to spend in order to get the information that they're trying to obtain. Just like with books, it can take a whole lifetime for one person to write a book and give all the intricate details of what got them to the place that they are, versus somebody like me who can go and read this book and have it in the palm of my hands and be able to read this book within a week and have all this information that took you a lifetime to understand and prepare. I can have it within a week and then take another week to apply it to my life, and however shorter amount of time to reap the benefits of that. It's such a interesting time that we live in, but it definitely makes me wonder how we are giving back, And going back to my initial question about when is the last time that we, see or hear good or positive news, I think that we have made significant strides. Now, I am not a expert in this type of field. And when I was preparing for this episode, I really had to take a step back and be like, girl, you do not know as much as you probably should. No, not even probably, as much as I would like to. I'm not as up to date with our Black or African American progression and just the statistics of where we were to where we come from. I am not up on that, and I want to be. I do feel an obligation to be aware of these things because I want to know that. I want to know where we were back then. And I have conversations oftentimes with people who are older than me and just the different dynamics of our lifestyle as our generation and what we are willing and not willing to put up with versus the generation before us, what they were willing to put up with, because they didn't really feel like they had a choice, or their choices or their abilities were very limited because of the fight for more rights that they were a part of anyway. So they couldn't really bear or dare to go against the grain or be rebellious in any other aspects outside of trying to fight for their rights. Whereas now, as the generations that we are, we want control of our time. I know I do. We want to be able to come and go when we want to. We want to go on vacations. We want to be millionaires. And these things are more realistic now because they're more frequent and available, and we're exposed to these things versus the generations before us. They were not exposed to these things. But what we cannot forget is the challenges and the traumas and the tribulations that our people before us had to overcome in order for us to be able to have these luxuries that we do now. We don't even look at it as luxuries now a lot of times because we're so used to being able to move so freely. We're so used to having rights, the right to vote, that when shit breaks in the news about how these politicians and these local leaders are trying to limit and deplete our ability to vote, we ain't even acknowledging it. We ain't even raising hell about it because it's like, oh, okay, well, I probably wasn't going to vote anyway. Why the not? We need to be able to utilize our voices, the voices that our forefathers and the people who have came before us fought so hard for. And we don't even think about that, or we don't even acknowledge it, or we just don't hold it any value. And it should be. It should be very valuable to us. I mean, it is very valuable to me. I guess that's all I can speak on is that it's valuable to me. But even with like this whole thing in the news with Kanye West and how he wants to attribute Black History Month to Black Future Month, I absolutely understand the thought process in which he is referring to not allowing our Black history and the traumas and challenges that we have overcome to continue to be those same challenges that we endure today and moving forward. I understand that we do need to pay homage to the people who are in our present day, that are paving the way and making significant strides in the way that the world sees Black America, the way the world sees African Americans. It's very significant. It's very important. And again, I am no expert. I'm just talking this through with y'all because this is what I like to do. I like to talk through different things, especially in the process of me learning it and in the process of me trying to apply it, because I too need to learn more about my history. I mean, history was not my favorite subject back then. I can't even quote you half of what history really is, especially Black history, or not even especially, but especially history, period. But even Black history, I can't, just go into my Rolodex of memories and just be able to spur that shit out like my sister can. She's like a genius with that stuff. But I'm not proud of that. I do want to learn more and be able to identify with the things that happened back then to the things that, are going on now. A question that I've had to ask myself is, what do I know about my own racial and cultural identity? And when I think about this question, it causes me to reference my career and the industry that I work in, because I am exposed to a lot of different people on a high spectrum, whether that is people who have a lot of wealth or people who are more so on the lower spectrum and not so fortunate. Being exposed to this level and this diverse set of economic class, it definitely gives me the opportunity to have like a diverse it gives me the opportunity to have diverse communication with all types of different people. And because of that, sometimes I can find myself, whenever I am dealing with people who are on the wealthy side, they're more entitled. When I'm dealing with people who are on the lower spectrum, they're more uninterested. People on the wealthy side they have more empowering conversations. People who are on the lower spectrum, they have more disempowering conversations. So it is really interesting to kind of, gauge and see how those different banters and dialogues are coming together and how they are actually being initiated, because it's really different, And when I think about people who I have conversations with who are maybe on the lower spectrum, I find so often that they are much more angry. They're much more frustrated with life and their situations. A lot of times they appear to be miserable, and it's a lot of unfortunate circumstances that have caused them to be placed in this really limited space outlook on life. And I am very open-minded to understand that a lot of this stems from how they were raised, their economic environment, the lack of education, not being exposed to a different level of thinking. And so when you do push this type of different level of thinking on someone, like when they come into an environment that is more intellectual, that's more challenging, they instantly have their guard up. And I find myself, when I'm experiencing these things, is to be very frustrated, because at that point I have to have my guard up, because I don't really know which way this is going to go. And even dealing with entitled people, sometimes you have to have your guard up because they are not cognizant of the type of demands that they are used to or they believe that they should be given. And so it just comes with a lot of give or take, and at least being able to have a conversation. But if you are not able to have a conversation and you are not open-minded, it is so frustrating to deal with either of these types, because there's no real flow of conversation, pretty much. And so the only way that we can make this work and become better is if everyone is more intentional. I don't ever want to relate to people or consider people as those people. Like I've heard people do so many times, where they separate themselves from their culture because of the distinguishment of being on a higher end or a lower end. It shouldn't have to be that way. But a lot of times when it comes to attitude, when it comes to what you will and will not tolerate, when it comes to your mindset, the things that you hold of in importance or not, it does cause a level of, or a certain wedge, because it's hard to think on a different thought process when you're either you've risen above it because you strive so hard to have an open mind and to be someone of a good caliber where you can have a diverse conversation, whether it is someone with a lot of wealth and knowledge, or someone who maybe lacks that and doesn't have all of that, but it doesn't allow you or cause you to stoop to a level where you think that you're better than anybody. But it brings about a frustration with dealing with people who refuse to try to level with you. You know, a lot of times I find myself in situations with people who are on the lower spectrum, is that they will assume or feel like you think that you're better than them. And that's not the case at all. But because I am trying to hold you accountable, because I am trying to teach you what it is that you can learn from this, because I'm also trying to, or will learn something from this encounter. And people, a lot of times, they don't want to be held accountable. It's very frustrating for somebody to try to hold you accountable, or teach you something that you don't even feel that you need to be taught. Really, because you were never taught that in the beginning. You were not exposed to having a more critical thinking mind. And so I hope that makes sense, because I come across this type of situation all the time where I just get very frustrated with people who feel as though if you're intellectual and you ask questions, and sometimes they are challenging questions. A lot of times they're challenging questions. And not that I am saying that you're wrong, but if I challenge you or ask you a question because I'm trying to understand, and a lot of people, if they don't even understand it themselves, then they get frustrated with you asking those questions, because now you're kind of making them look stupid in a way. I was watching something not too long ago where I learned about it being individualism, where we are out for ourselves. And a lot of people will be like, well, just don't worry about, them or that situation, because that doesn't have anything to do with me. They feel that they are so far removed from a situation or a circumstance until it's right at your front door and knocking, trying to come in, and you need somebody to rally behind you, then you don't really feel like it's significant at that moment, because your life is so golden. You have everything you need at that time, or you're not being exposed to something that is really that detrimental to you, where you even have to put in any type of effort to make a change. But if we don't rally together, even in our times of where we don't immediately need something, but that we know that our future depends on those who are able to stand up and make a change now, then who are we leaving this responsibility to? The next generation? I mean, somebody has to be the voice of change, the voice of reason, somebody to kind of push the envelope a little bit more. That's the only way that we will continue to see change. And so we cannot forget how significant our history is to us and how the struggles have made us who we are. The trials and the dark clouds, the sleepless nights, those things, all of those things have developed us and shaped us into the culture, the community that we are. And without those things, we will not be able to appreciate the wins and the successes and all these positive things that we do have going on. We must continue to raise our voices. And by doing that, voting, of course, and being a voice of reason, standing up for what's right, even if it means having uncomfortable conversations with people of the opposite race that need to feel uncomfortable. I talk about this with people at my job all the time. It's like, why not have these uncomfortable conversations with people? Why not be transparent and tell them the truth? What are we trying to, what is it called? Why are we trying to go around the situation and lead people in this circle as if they're chasing their tail? Why not just be transparent and have this uncomfortable conversation? Because when you confront people with uncomfortable truths or uncomfortable conversation, it only gives them the opportunity to face it. And at that point, you'll see what they're made of. You'll see what they have to say or what they don't have to say. You'll see if they come up with excuses or if they have a reason, which to me, I'm in between, because I really feel like excuses and reasons are the same thing. I mean, there's always going to be a reason why, or you can look at it as always an excuse, but maybe that's not fair. However, when we are transparent, we give people the opportunity to face whatever that is straightforward and find some type of solution. Because that, at the end of the day, that's what the whole point of this is. If we're not looking to find solutions and find better ways to handle and deal with things, then we're just going to keep repeating itself. And that's the way that history repeats itself. We don't need that in our future. We want our future generations to look back on this and be able to know that this is what helped them to not have to endure these things again, you know? So let's just continue this conversation. It shouldn't just be only a conversation for Black history, and I understand that as well. Again, I definitely want to invest in understanding more of what the progress is of Black America, Black culture, the improvement of Black Lives Matter, all of the things that are pushing our culture forward, and also the things that are going to bring all of these cultures together, because that's what's most important. So stay tuned, subscribe, like, comment, make sure that you're just tapped in with the Uncovered podcast. Of course, I'm your girl Katie. You can, stay tapped in with me and my socials, _CoverGirl with the K. Follow all the Uncovered podcast social medias, and it's up.